That's the fourth largest expense in our budget right now. I was kind of worried about putting this video out. Different people are gonna spend their money different ways. There's so many intangible things that they're getting from those experiences, and my husband and I are really prioritizing those for them. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new to See Mini Mom, welcome. Today I'm going to talk just a little bit about budgeting and one specific area of our budget, why we prioritize what we're spending there, and some tips and tricks for how we're saving money in that particular line item. And it is kids, sports, and activities, so stay tuned. As I have been thinking about my channel and the different kinds of videos that I want to make moving forward, I know that budgeting is something that I wanted to talk a little bit more about. I have made many budget videos where food is concerned, when I've done extreme meal plans, $5 dinners, a specific grocery budget that I'm trying to stick to. But there are other areas of household budgeting where, my husband and I are learning things, where we have learned some lessons the hard way already, and I just wanted to share a little bit more about that. However, in the past, whenever I have tried to do budgeting videos, I sometimes get a little bit long-winded, and usually that's because it's such a broad topic and I'm trying to talk about too many things at one time. So as my husband and I were kind of doing our monthly budget check-in, where we look at how we did the previous month and what our balances are and our line items for our budget, I had this idea come into my head for a budget video that might turn into a series. And that is where I talk about like one specific line item in our budget, like one specific area where we budget money, how much we budget for it, why we do it, any savings tips that we have in that area, and just go from there. And the reason that this idea popped into my head is because this particular area of our budget that I'm about to talk about is actually the fourth largest expense for us from month to month. That's behind our mortgage, tithes and offerings and charitable gifts, auto or car. And then number 4 is kids, sports, and activities. That's right. That's the fourth largest expense in our budget right now. And actually the only reason that automotive or car is number 3 right now is because we are saving pretty heavily for a replacement vehicle for me within the next year. And as soon as we purchase that, kids' activities are going to bump up to the number 3 spot. Now, I know that may sound crazy, and before you come at me in the comments over it, just hear me out. First off, I want to say that if you do not have a budget, you need one. Whether it's just you and a spouse, or you have kids, you really need to know how much money is coming into your household, whether it be from one source or multiple sources, and how that money is leaving your household. And then you can make adjustments from there. Maybe there are places where you want to cut back, or maybe you realize that in order to do the things that you want to do, you might have to find another revenue stream, but you really need a budget, and to keep track of that from week to week or month to month, however you want to do it. There are all kinds of apps, channels, books, programs, methods specifically devoted to this. Ask around, do a little research. If you've never done budgeting before, if you don't have a household budget, you really need to do that. I also want to point out that outside of our mortgage, my husband and I don't have any debt. So we're not paying off student loans. We don't have a car payment. We don't have a credit card balances that are carrying over. So that leaves us a little bit more wiggle room in our budget. We also have a line item in our budget called long-term savings. And I believe this is what some people call an emergency fund. And we have funded that to the point that we're comfortable. So we don't have to put any money into long-term savings. That doesn't mean that we aren't saving money in other places for particular purchases, but I just mean our emergency fund is fully funded for us. As we are coming into these family years where our kids are getting just a little bit older and they're getting to the ages where they're starting to be more active in the things that interest them, my husband and I have decided to make it a priority to be able to budget for the things that they want to do. And we feel like this is important not just for their physical health, but for their mental and emotional health as well, and for their social well-being. And I know that I am speaking from a place of bias because I taught and still teach music, and so I am very much aware of the benefits that students receive from participating in sports, from participating in music, from art, from dance. They learn things like teamwork, cooperation, they learn discipline and commitment, they learn goal setting and problem solving. There's so many intangible things that they're getting from those experiences, and my husband and I are really prioritizing those for them along with school and church activities. And you might make a different decision as a parent. There might be other things that you prioritize. There are some people who might think that we're crazy for budgeting what we're budgeting for our kids to get to play baseball and do swim and gymnastics, but they might not bat an eyelash at dropping $5 or $6 grand for a Disney World vacation that only lasts a week, or they might save up $10,000 or $15,000 for a European vacation. There are all different ways that we prioritize our money. And personally, I think we have to be careful about passing judgment and drawing conclusions about the way a person is spending their money because you don't know their story. Like I said, if somebody is being responsible with their budget and they're checking in from time to time, it's possible that they are making room for these things that we might consider frivolous in other ways. But I wanted to share some tips for how we are still being intentional and mindful with this money and how we are trying to get the best bang for our buck, so to speak, with what we are dedicating to our kids' activities. And maybe there's something helpful in here for somebody who has kids my age. Maybe your kids are grown, but you have some helpful tips you can share with us. Or maybe you're thinking about starting a family and this isn't something that's occurred to you and it's something you can plan for in the future. And that's actually my first tip for you, is to make a plan. Like I said, you have to decide what your priorities are going to be where your budget is concerned. Maybe you're not in a position right now where you can budget money to your kids' activities. So maybe you are trying to get out of debt. Maybe you are trying to get a promotion, or maybe you are working on a side hustle that's going to help bring in some more revenue that will free up more money for the kinds of opportunities you want to give to your kids. I can remember thinking that we were going to have it made in the shade whenever our kids were out of daycare while I was working full time, but I can tell you that we basically just changed the daycare line item in our budget to kids' activities because we spend pretty much the same amount that we used to spend on daycare and after school care on the things that they are still doing after school and in the evenings. So ask yourself these questions and make a plan for what kinds of experiences you want to be able to provide for your kids. And even if they're already at this point and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know, it's not too late. It's not too late to think about that. Just really think about how you're going to make room in your budget. My second piece of advice is to minimize your initial investment. When our kids are in the try it out phase, if they show an interest in something that they want to try, we will look for the best possible value for the opportunity. So that means that I'm going to look for community programs, for church programs, for programs that are subsidized by the school district that might give them an opportunity to try this thing out for a minimal amount of time and money before we really dive into it. For instance, when my oldest daughter was 6 years old, she begged us to try gymnastics. So I found this little church of all places that had this little introductory gymnastics program, and bonus, they had a discount when you enrolled a second child. So that's actually how our younger daughter got her start in gymnastics. She was just kind of piggybacking onto the activity with her older sister. Well, thank goodness that we didn't go down the street and invest a whole bunch in the really expensive gymnastics academy, because my oldest daughter decided very quickly that that activity was not for her. But at that point, we really didn't have a lot of skin in the game. I had looked for a very, reasonable introductory program, and we didn't invest a lot of money in equipment. She had one little leotard at that point that we wore each week whenever we went for gymnastics lessons. So we didn't go over the top with the initial investment. In this same vein, whenever our son wanted to try baseball last summer, we just got online and looked for our regular community program. We signed him up and paid the initial fee. They put him onto a team. We paid like $20 for a t-shirt and a hat. I called my sister and asked if she had any old equipment that we could borrow because her son also plays baseball, so she sent us a bat. Our neighbor had actually loaned him a glove, and that's actually one of the reasons why he became interested in it, because he was playing baseball in the backyard with the neighbor kid. So because we looked for, an inexpensive community program, we borrowed equipment, we minimized our investment, both time and money in the beginning, we're able to discover if this is something that our son actually likes, that he actually enjoys, and is it something that he can possibly be good at? Because sometimes that's a question we have to ask as parents. What are our kids' abilities? What are their strengths? Is this something that is going to play well to their personality and to their particular talents and gifts? Now, as our kids get older and as they get, further along in their activities, we know that we are probably going to need to invest more time and money. But we also want to protect that investment by making sure that we are choosing the best programs, the best coaching, the best instruction. And I don't mean the most expensive. I mean the thing that's going to fit my kid the best and give him the most opportunity opportunity to grow and advance from beginner to intermediate in whatever activity we've chosen. So going back to baseball, after we did a couple of seasons of the minimum investment of just doing the community programs to see if he liked it, at that point, we know if we really want to get better at this, we're probably going to need to get on a team that practices a little bit more consistently, that's going to stay together for a few years and go up through the ranks. And now in order for him to get better in something that he really enjoys and shows ability in, we're going to need to actually spend a little bit more time and money and be a little bit more particular about how we are engaging in this activity. And a good example of this particular concept for us right now is that our oldest daughter does swimming. And we have decided that we've gone about as far as we can in the little private swim school that we've been using, and we would really like to switch over to our school district swim program. We have a beautiful aquatic center in our district and a really great swim program. So we are in the process of trying to set up a tryout for her and invest a little bit more time and effort in this thing that she seems to be good at and enjoy. That also might mean that we need to let go of something else. And I have to tell you, I might catch some flack for saying this, but I'm just speaking from experience as a mom, as a teacher, and as a person who is from a very active and athletic family. I have seen time and time again kids who try so many different things that they never really get good at one thing. We have decided that we would rather eventually narrow it down for our kids to just, one or two things that they're doing so that they can really focus their time and attention. And so we can really focus our resources on those things and help them excel in that one thing or two things. We thought it would be possible for our son to do both baseball and soccer this spring, but as we got to thinking about it more and looking at the schedules, we were like, this just looks like we're only going to be able to give half of our time and half of our effort to each of these things. And we probably just need to choose the thing that he seems to show the most ability in and want to do more, and that was baseball. But if you have kids, you know this, as they get better at things and as they become a part of more competitive programs, there can be a pretty hefty price tag on some things. Now, a lot of organizations do fundraisers, and this makes it possible for lots of families and kids to participate. And I actually think there is value in asking kids to participate in some of the fundraisers, because then that gives them some ownership of the activity, right? They might appreciate it more if we say, hey, we know you want to do this, but there's $100 fee, so let's come up with a way that you can work towards earning part of this or all of this. Our oldest daughter really enjoys going to camp in the summer, and we can afford to send her to camp if we save money throughout the year. However, we think it's valuable for her to learn about taking some ownership in the things that she wants to do. So we've asked her to pay part of her camp tuition fee if she wants this experience. And not only does that teach her a little bit of independence and a little bit of responsibility, but I think it also enriches the experience for her, because she is going to go there and really understand the worth and the value of it. But here are some other ways that I am trying to save money and stretch my dollar as far as it will go when it comes to my kids' activities. When it comes to gear and practice clothes and the equipment that they need for different things, I am shopping sales. I am looking in thrift stores. I am buying secondhand where it's possible. I am a member of a couple of different Facebook groups, garage sale groups. We have thrift stores in our town where I can look for different items that my kids need for their activities. I actually just went to the thrift store a few days ago to get my son some baseball pants for practice. They had tons of baseball pants in great condition in his size for 99 cents a pair. And usually I'm very particular about shoes. I don't like buying used shoes, but with kids, I will sometimes, especially with sports shoes, because I can turn them over and look at the tread and see if they've really been worn that much. So I was actually able to get my son a pair of baseball cleats for like $4 and just replace the shoelaces in them. And that's way better than the $25, $30, $35, $40 price tag I would have paid for them brand new, especially for shoes he's probably gonna outgrow in just one season. And as far as new equipment goes, because there's some things that you just need to buy new, I am on the Dick's Sporting Goods email list, and they send out coupons from time to time, and I will, take advantage of that if there's something that I've been wanting to purchase. If it's like, hey, Brick needs some socks, or we want to buy a few more baseballs for our backyard bucket, I will often wait for those sales and those percentage off coupons to come around so that I can make those purchases. I will also utilize Amazon for some things because it's really easy to do price comparisons. Buying swimsuits at that my daughter's swim school is pretty expensive. I have found some really great swimsuits for my daughter for swimming on Amazon. I will leave our favorite one linked in the description box below. It's specifically designed for girls, not for women. And I like that the sizing is a little bit more familiar to me as opposed to competitive swimwear. But for what she has needed for the past couple of years, these swimsuits have been phenomenal. So I will leave that linked in the description box below, along with a few other items that I found on Amazon that have been, really great for us in the activities that we've been doing. This is actually my second go round to try to film this video, and I've been kind of on the fence about whether or not to post it and talk about it. I feel like I have something helpful to share with you guys, but some people get really defensive or they get really offended by money talk, and they make a lot of assumptions about me and about my family, and they might even say some really mean, hurtful things about how we're spending our money. So I'm really leery of telling you guys a dollar amount, but I'm going to right now. We are currently budgeting $900 a month for our kids' activities. So we foresee that we need to budget about $900 a month across the year in order to pay for the things that they want to do and that we want them to get to do. And you might think, oh my gosh, that's so much money. But really think about what your kids are doing. Like I said, we pay for gear out of this. We're thinking about travel out of this. We're thinking about every little shoe that they have to buy, the special undergarments my daughter needs for gymnastics. Like all of that stuff is coming out of that line item in our budget. And those are things that sometimes might slip through in your budget in other categories like clothing or recreation or travel. And as I stated before, we're cutting back in other areas. We don't eat out a ton. We don't take really expensive vacations. When we do travel, we're probably using points or we're looking to do it on a budget. For instance, we're gonna take a little 3-night trip down to a cabin in southeastern Oklahoma, and we are sharing it with another family. We're still gonna get to have a little out-of-town excursion with our kiddos on spring break, but we're not spending near as much as our friends who are going skiing or in other years who have taken cruises or who are visiting Disney. I don't spend as much in clothing because I tend to keep a smaller capsule wardrobe, and I shop sales and consignments in thrift stores. I don't get my hair done very often. I don't get my nails done very often. We drive older vehicles, secondhand vehicles. You have to kind of understand that different people are going to spend their money different ways, and this is just a place where we have prioritized spending for the coming years so that we can do some things for our kids that we think are important for their development and that are fun for them. But as I pointed out, there are also ways that we're trying to be intentional and trying to be smart with the money that we are budgeting so that we can stretch it as far as possible and so that we can be generous, okay? We want to also pay a little bit extra on that fee or give a donation to the team so that maybe another child can have a little break on their tuition or be sponsored if they need it. And actually, that's one of the big reasons why I have kind of stepped up on my channel and why I'm continuing to do this, because this channel has become an income that we weren't expecting, and it is affording a side hustle income or a part-time income, so to speak, that helps us cover some of the expenses of these activities that our kids want to do. But just because we are budgeting kind of a hefty chunk of money to our kids' activities, that doesn't mean that we aren't still trying to use it to the best of our ability and to get the best deals that we possibly can. So if you have any tips or tricks or advice for parents when it comes to paying for the things that our kids want to do for the activities that they want to try, feel free to leave me a comment in the description box below, and I will be sure to check in with another video very soon.